And before you know it, people, free agency is going to come around the corner as one key date that you have to keep circling on your NFL calendar is March 11th. That's the official start of the 2026 league year and free agency. But first things first, today the franchise tag window is officially open. It will go for the next couple of weeks. A couple of candidates that could be tagged include Indianapolis' Daniel Jones and Alec Pierce, their wide receiver, along with Jets running back Breece Hall. Also keep an eye on Bengals pass rusher Trey Hendrickson, who's an unrestricted free agent, Kyle Pitts, and others. And speaking of the Bengals, after a disappointing season in 2025, the team holds the 10th overall pick in the upcoming NFL draft. They did not get much in the way of production from their first-round pick last year, Shamar Stewart, so I gave them Reuben Bain Jr., whose 9.5 sacks helped Miami to the national championship game and earned him ACC Defensive Player of the Year honors last season. This team has questions on offense, Mike, but they've got glaring issues on defense. What's the right play here at number 10 overall?
Yes, they can't go wrong. Look, they were 29th in defensive efficiency field, and this is an unusual dynamic because everything the Bengals need to do is they have to bring Joe Burrow into the conversation. And I'm not saying he needs to be the general manager, but what you don't want is Carson Palmer 2.0, somebody in their primary career saying, I'm going to retire and not play here. So they need to shore up their offensive line, which I think they can somewhere in the middle draft. But I would tag Trey Hendrickson despite all the ill will. You mentioned Shamar Stewart, didn't work out. They have drafted a lot on the back end, DJ Turner, Dax Hill, Jordan Battle, and I would take the best pass rusher possible, whoever was available between Arvell Reese, David Bailey, Reuben Bain. But they need to help this defense.
Yeah, they have to go defense, guys. This is easy. You don't want a Carson Palmer. You don't want an Andrew Luck situation. We know that. But one way to keep Joe Burrow happy is maybe have a defense that can force some 3-and-outs. Give the offense a couple more opportunities per game. And Mike T's right. This is a draft that is in the top 10, heavy on defensive talent. David Bailey from Texas Tech, one of the best pass rushers in the country in terms of speed, with his ability to dip around the edge. You have the power of a Reuben Bain coming out of the University of Miami, and we saw what he did for that team in the college football playoffs. But I think Caleb Downs would be an interesting option here. The safety out of Ohio State started his career at Alabama. If our colleague, Coach Nick Saban, thinks you're a good defensive back, I'm also going to say you're a pretty good defensive back. Downs can do it all for this team. He could play split safety. He could come into the box. We saw week 1 against Texas, Matt Patricia deployed him in the middle of the field as a spy against Arch Manning and to take away some of those middle of the field crossers. Downs can be an eraser. He can align in so many different areas for you as a mismatch chess piece at the safety position. I know we're going to talk about positional value. Do you draft a safety in the top 10? I think you do if it's Caleb Downs. And we could have a laundry list of safeties that were underdrafted. Guys like Kyle Hamilton, guys like Antoine Winfield Jr., Tyrann Mathieu. I think Caleb Downs can be a difference maker in that same mold of a Honey Badger, a Brian Branch. And that is what this defense needs, in addition to also needing help at defensive end.
Matt, this is to not say that only safeties cover tight ends, but worth noting, last year the Bengals against tight ends allowed the most catches, yards, and receiving touchdowns by a healthy margin. There's no way that Caleb Downs makes that part of the defense worse. Let's talk about Trey Hendrickson, though, a little bit further, Mike T. You said that you would tag Trey Hendrickson, who, let's remind folks about how things went last offseason. This was a very contentious negotiation between he and the Bengals that was resolved with basically a Band-Aid, a 1-year contract. No extension, no gigantic raise there for Hendrickson. Would you be willing to tag him once again, understanding that you could find yourself in a similar standoff all the way until July 15th again?
I think the underrated aspect of team building and working in front office is your ability to be a great listener. And sometimes you have to sit there and listen to Trey Hendrickson and really understand where the issues are and try to solve them. Now, you can't make every player happy. In fact, there'd be a lot of players tell you that I never made them happy. But you certainly try. And look, he's just too talented and too productive when he's healthy. And again, if Bill Walsh, the great Bill Walsh, was still here, he would talk about pass to score, run to win, and fourth quarter pass rushers. And there's too many prolific passing offenses in the AFC field that when you have a guy in your building who's high character, who's been productive outside of last year, to let him leave, and you have to go to the root of the problem. Like, why was he unhappy? And again, the audience ultimately is Joe Burrow. Is Joe Burrow going to be happy?
The wide receiver class is extremely deep and talented, one of the deepest we have seen in recent years. What are some of the attributes, Mike T, that stand out to you when you evaluate this group as a whole?
Well, what I like about it, there's a little bit of something for everyone. So if you think about outside, the bigger, more rugged guys. So things about guys like Denzel Boston, Cardell Tate, Malachi Fields from Notre Dame. But then if you're looking for the quicker sort of slot guys, Casey Concepcion, Zachariah Branch, they're going to be productive players as well. So it's deep, but it's varied in terms of skill sets that'll be available.
I'm declaring today, the 17th, the final day that we can play off the Valentine's theme. But let's do some matchmaking here, Mike, with some wide receiver needy teams and a player that might fit their needs. Let's begin with a team that you know very well, the New York Jets.
Yeah, we're going to go with Mekhi Lemon. And what I like about him is, and I'm saying this because they're in the same city, but he has a little Puka Nacua to me. Contested catches. And when you think about Garrett Wilson, whose speed, let's get some physicality with Garrett Wilson and go with Mekhi Lemon. I think they are absolutely a perfect tandem.
What a fun player to watch. Let's stay in New York with the Giants, the other team that calls MetLife Stadium home. Who do you like for the G-Men?
Okay, similar theme. Let's go with Carnell Tate from Ohio State. When we think about Malik Neighbors Field, we think about game-changing speed. When we think about Carnell Tate, what are we looking at here? Physicality, contested catches, great route runner. And I think if we're, facing an opposing defense, Tate and Neighbors would present a ton of problems for them.
Yeah, Tate averaged over 17 yards per catch last season, a career high in receiving yards for Ohio State. No drops last season. By the way, it would have been a great opportunity in describing Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors has go-home gear as it pertains to his speed. All right, Baltimore Ravens, they picked number 14, Mike, and they have Zay Flowers, a pint-sized player with a lot of playmaking ability. Who might be a good fit for them?
Someone I know you like, Jordan Tyson from Arizona State. You mentioned the size of Zay Flowers. Look at Jordan Tyson right here on film, number 0. Big player, good run after the catch. Again, when we think about complementary skill sets and size, I think Tyson and Flowers, to me, are an ideal complement to one another.
Yeah, Tyson had kind of a down year this past season because of injuries and also some quarterback turnover at Arizona State. Sam Leavitt now in LSU. But I think this is a player who's got pretty unique explosiveness in this class. He's got good pedigree as well. His older brother, Jalen Tyson, first-round pick for the Cleveland Cavaliers a couple of years ago and a breakout player in the NBA. The Patriots fall short in the Super Bowl, Mike T, and they might need some help at pass catcher. Who do you like in this group for them?
Well, you mentioned they fell short. It's because they lacked explosive plays. Casey Concepcion, Texas A&M, this is what they're going to need. They're going to need big chunk plays, guys that can do a lot, run after catch, and that's what Casey Concepcion can do. Here you see him breaking a tackle, has the speed, as you would say, the good home speed, something that he has. So I think about Drake May and what he needs. He needs players like Casey Concepcion and line up in the slot, and something that Patriot offense had lacked.
He had 2 seasons at NC State, 1 at Texas A&M. He had 10 receiving touchdowns as a true freshman, 25 receiving touchdowns in total. This past year at Texas A&M, 2 punt returns for a touchdown. He is instant offense defined. Also, I guess, instant special teams defined. All right, one more team here, Mike. Tennessee Titans, they have the 4th pick in the upcoming draft. Could they go defense to make their head coach Robert Saleh happy, or could they go wide receiver to make their quarterback Cam Ward happy?
And Brian Daboll, their new offensive coordinator.
Yes, indeed, yeah.
We're going to go with Denzel Boston, University of Washington. And look, I think Cam Ward's going to be a great player. I loved him coming out. He was a little disappointing in terms of accuracy. When you talk to quarterbacks, especially young ones over the years, what do they tell you? They like players that have big strike zones. So when you think about Calvin Ridley and the rest of the Titans, they don't have somebody who's this size outside of Alec Moore. And I think what Denzel Boston can do is bring a little bit more size and speed to that position.